In the 1970s, few television actors were as instantly recognizable as Demon Wilson, a performer whose face appeared in millions of homes week after week at the height of network television's power. At a time when families gathered around a single screen, Wilson became part of the routine, the rhythm of everyday life. His presence felt dependable, warm, and grounded, even when surrounded by exaggerated comedy. Fame came quickly, but it arrived attached to responsibility. The responsibility of representing a character people trusted and invited into their homes. Unlike many stars of that era, Wilson never chased attention beyond the work itself. He allowed the performances to speak, letting audiences connect naturally. This quiet consistency is why his legacy endured. Long after the original broadcasts ended, he wasn't just famous, he was familiar, and that distinction shaped both his career and the choices he would later make. Becoming Lamont Sanford, Demon Wilson's defining role came in 1972 when he was cast as Lamont Sanford, the grounded and often exasperated son of Fred Sanford in Sanford and Son. At just 26 years old, Wilson stepped into a role that required restraint, timing, and emotional intelligence. Acting opposite Red Fox, a veteran comedian with enormous presence, was no small task. Yet Wilson never disappeared in the shadow of his co-star. Instead, he balanced the chaos with calm, serving as the emotional anchor of the show. Lamont was the voice of reason, the son trying to keep things together while navigating his father's antics. That balance made the comedy work. Viewers didn't just laugh at Lamont, they recognized him. He felt real, relatable, and human, which turned the character into one of television's most enduring straight men, a cultural phenomenon. Sanford and Son wasn't just another sitcom, it was a cultural event. At its peak, the show drew tens of millions of viewers each week, ranking among the highest-rated programs on television. For 5 seasons from 1972 to 1977, Demon Wilson was a constant presence in American households. The humor crossed generations, backgrounds, and living rooms, creating shared moments of laughter that still echo through reruns today. The chemistry between Wilson and Fox elevated the series beyond scripted comedy into something that felt alive. Their performances reflected a complicated but loving father-son relationship that resonated deeply with audiences. Fame followed naturally, but so did pressure. Being part of such a massive success meant expectations never stopped. Wilson handled that weight with professionalism, but behind the scenes, he was already beginning to question what lasting fulfillment really looked like beyond ratings and applause. Life after the breakout role. When Sanford and Son ended, Wilson didn't disappear. He continued working steadily, taking on new roles that showed his range and willingness to evolve. He starred in Baby, I'm Back, explored ensemble comedy in The New Odd Couple, and later appeared in film projects that moved him beyond sitcom familiarity. These choices reflected a desire to be seen as more than one character. Wilson understood the risks of typecasting and actively tried to expand his identity as an actor. While not every project achieved the same level of success, his commitment to the craft never wavered. He approached each role seriously, treating acting as a profession rather than a shortcut to fame. Still, even as opportunities continued, something deeper was shifting within him, an internal reckoning that success alone could not quiet. A search for meaning beyond fame. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Demon Wilson experienced a profound personal transformation. Despite professional success, he began to speak openly about feeling unfulfilled. Fame, money, and recognition had not provided the sense of purpose he expected. This period of reflection led him toward spirituality, ultimately becoming an ordained minister. This was not a symbolic change, but a deeply lived one. Wilson immersed himself in faith, studying, writing, and teaching with the same seriousness he once brought to acting. He later described how the Hollywood lifestyle had pulled him away from what mattered most to him. His spiritual path offered clarity, structure, and peace. Rather than adding faith to his life, he recentered his life around it. This decision would soon reshape his career in ways few expected, walking away on his own terms. At a time when many actors fight to stay visible at all costs, Demond Wilson made the rare choice to step away. He declined roles and opportunities that conflicted with his values, even when they promised financial security or renewed fame. This wasn't burnout, it was intention. Wilson chose principle over momentum, walking away from an industry he felt no longer aligned with his inner life. He took what would become a roughly 20-year break from acting, focusing instead on ministry, writing, and family. For most performers, such a pause would be terrifying. For Wilson, it was freeing. He measured success differently now, not by visibility, but by integrity. This decision challenged the idea that stepping back equals failure. In his case, it represented courage, clarity, and a deep commitment to living authentically. A quiet return to the screen. After decades away from regular acting, Wilson made a brief return with the 2023 drama Eleanor's Bench. The role was modest, reflective, and far removed from the sitcom energy that once defined him. It wasn't a comeback driven by nostalgia or headlines, but a personal choice that clearly held meaning for him. The performance felt intentional, as if he wanted to close the circle on his own terms. There was no attempt to reclaim past fame, only to contribute something honest. For longtime fans, seeing him again carried emotional weight. It reminded audiences that people are allowed to change, to step away, and to return when it feels right. That final role wasn't about visibility, it was about expression, a quiet reminder of his range and depth as a performer, a life of many identities. Demond Wilson's legacy cannot be confined to a single role or decade. He was an actor, yes, but also a minister, an author, a husband, and a father. He wrote books about faith and personal growth, sharing his experiences with honesty rather than judgment. Those who knew him personally often described him as thoughtful, grounded, and sincere. When news of his passing at age 79 was shared, the words that followed were simple and telling. He was a good man. Not a headline, not a spectacle, just a life remembered with respect and love. In an industry often defined by excess, Wilson's later years were defined by balance. He showed that people are not frozen at their peak fame, but continue growing long after the spotlight fades. A legacy that goes deeper than television. Demond Wilson will always be remembered as Lamont Sanford, a character who helped define one of television's most beloved comedies. But his deeper legacy lies in the choices he made away from the camera. He proved that it's possible to walk away from success without regret, to redefine purpose without apology. His life reminds us that fame is only one chapter, not the whole story. In choosing faith, humility, and authenticity, Wilson offered a powerful example in an industry that rarely rewards such decisions. His work continues to bring laughter to new generations, but his life offers something more lasting. A reminder that fulfillment doesn't always follow the brightest lights. Sometimes it comes from stepping back, listening inward, and choosing the path that feels true.